While there is big attention to Ukraine and Russia, I guess it's the best time to explain to the world why Ukrainians and Russians are not the same nation and how Russia actually stole the history of Ukraine. Despite Ukrainians and Russians had a lot of common history, the genesis of those two nations are really not the same. When the territory of Ukraine were populated by Scythians and Sarmats, the territory of modern Russia was mostly populated by Ugric Finns, and this was the tribes which didn't really develop the culture, knowledge and so on, so they was very basic on development. Anyway, in 9th century we got Scandinavians who came and unite all different kind of tribes to the one state called Kievan Rus. On that time, the center of the world were Byzantia, and to say it's actually city Constantinople, which nowadays is part of Turkey. All the world trend ideas was exactly coming from these areas and was going directly to Kiev. Kiev was developing its art, study, churches, books, literature, everything. And where was Moscow at that time? Actually, Moscow was founded 160 years later after that. For sure, Russian history always tried to say that our Russian cities also were part of Kiev Rus. That's true. For example, Russia have the city called Suzdal and Vladimir, which was actually on that time very remote areas of Kiev Rus, and for sure they were way less developed when which the cultural center Kiev. Anyway, we don't know how all those nations can live together during the Kiev Rus, because Mongol invasion happened in 13th century. And actually Moscow and the kingdoms which was around on that time, they submitted to Mongols and they become just their part. Kiev and some western parts of modern Ukraine were fighting so much hard, and at the end Mongols win. They robbed, destroyed Kiev, and they ran more to Poland, Czech and Hungary. At the end, they was having very heavy fights and they start losing so much, so they decide to drop all these ideas, return back to territory of modern Russia and founded country which was called Golden Horde. Since that time, Moscow and the areas around start assimilating with Mongols, adopting their style of ruling the country, social and political features. At the same time, Ukraine and Belarus become part of Lithuanian kingdom, in total living something like 300 years under their management. While Ukraine under Lithuania gets so many architectural, art ideas, philosophical ideas and so on, Moscow were focusing how to develop army and how to teach their people that there is only one king and you must listen him whatever so. All that for sure give Moscow a lot of strength compared to some kind of Western democratic style of leadership. And based on that, in 17th century, Moscow finally invaded east of Ukraine. After invasion, they realized that Ukrainians were much more culturally developed and morally developed than Moscovites, which actually never focused on building any kind of culture at all. Their ruler, Peter I, he decided to rebrand Moscow, to rename her into Russia. And in 1 second, everything what was related to Kiev Rus, everything what was related to Ruthenians, and this is how Lithuanians were called Ukrainian part, it became just part of Moscow and part of Moscow cultural legacy. All achievements of architecture, carving, art, drawing, literature, all kind of sculptures, it all was Ukrainians, and Moscow started considering that this is part of their history and that they are very old, deep civilization which carry all traditions from the Kiev Rus. This idea were continued by another queen of Russia, Catherine II, which were German by her nationality, but she was feeling ashamed actually to rule the Ugric Mongol population, and she decided to design another history, that Russians, this is another branch of the Slavs, and so all the culture of the Slavs, this is the culture of Russians as well. In the period of USSR, Ukrainian language were not allowed, Ukrainian literature were not allowed, and anybody who were having any kind of Ukrainian nationalistic ideas were killed or sent to Siberia. And only in 1991, when Ukraine finally got independent, they got a chance to develop their culture, traditions and customs. Ideas that Ukrainians are giving hard time to Russian-speaking people, they are Russophobes, they don't like to be friends with Russia, sounds very ridiculous when you understand the history and what is staying behind it. Russia is a child of Mongol horde, with their ideas and style of ruling the country. They steal Ukrainian history, they steal our cultural legacy, and while you keep saying that Ukrainians and Russians are the same nation, you are just making them successful in their strategy.